Something happened on our drive from Williams, Arizona to Kanab, Utah that we weren't expecting. It was an extremely windy day. We could see hundreds of tumbleweeds blowing across the road, and we were a little bit worried that our RV might tip over while driving. Thankfully, that did not happen.
Look at that. Grayson, look at on the right. Ooh, it's a dam.
That kind of looks like the Hoover Dam.
Yeah, it does kind of look like the Hoover Dam.
We made it across the Glen Canyon Dam and into Utah. A few minutes after we crossed the state line, I happened to look in the side mirror and saw chunks of insulation flying out from under our RV.
We pulled over to the side of the road to find that the underbelly of our RV had actually come loose and was being dragged underneath us, causing almost all of the insulation to fly out across the Utah desert. You can see here where the front of the coroplast came loose, which made it act like a wind tunnel, and air shot through the underbelly, causing it to rip through the back. I got a roll of Gorilla Tape out of the basement, and I did my best to tape up the sides to hopefully hold it in place until we got to Kanab, Utah, which was about 60 miles away.
Now remember, it was extremely windy that day, so as Steve was laying on the ground under the RV, sand and gravel were pelting him in the face.
Before we finish this story, let's go back a few months to when we first started having problems with our underbelly.
We were still at my parents' house in California, and it had been raining off and on for weeks.
One of those many rainy days, I noticed that our underbelly looked really saggy, so I pushed on it and heard water sloshing around in there. So I started to unscrew the metal strips that hold the coroplast up. And lo and behold, tons of water started pouring out. There it goes. Whoop.
On that side?
Huh?
It's on your side?
Yeah.
You might as well pull the insulation out and let it dry out.
Yeah, I will. I'm just trying to get it out right now. Without it getting all over me, you know?
Yeah. There it goes. There goes Niagara Falls.
Yeah, it's moving to the back though. There's more in here. I can feel it. I ended up removing the entire underbelly so we could assess the damage and dry everything out. It's gonna be worse than it is, but it's not.
I mean, that's still a lot of water.
By the time you got the washing
Yeah.
It's like the blood trail.
All right, so when California or Southern California had a torrential rainfall in December, more than they've probably had in the last 5 years combined, we noticed our garage door on the driver's side of the trailer was leaking. It was kind of warped. It wasn't screwed in well, and the weather stripping was not rotten but relatively loose. We resealed it, cleaned it all up. Lippert sent us a new door, got it put on, and we thought the coast was clear. When it leaked from this door, came down and ran underneath this panel, underneath the surge protector, and into that hole in the subfloor. We only saw a little bit of water. Oops. We only saw a little bit of water there, and we sopped it up with a towel thinking we got it all. Well, come to find out we didn't. And so the underbelly was relatively pregnant. Noticed a little bit of water sloshing around, so that's why we decided to drop the underbelly. And so the garage door might be fixed, but the underbelly wasn't. So we dropped the underbelly, and good news and bad news. Good news is nothing's moldy. We can let it fully dry out for a couple days, and we'll go about replacing a couple bats of insulation, but otherwise it looks good down here. So hopefully that's the only leak we deal with in the near future.
So all this water is what came out of our underbelly. Oh yeah, you can see the main area where it's all wet right there.
Everything under here was pretty much dry. It was just the insulation that was wet, but everything under here, as you can see, is nice and dry. But what we decided to do was go ahead and throw a fan on it for a few hours as well, just to make sure we have no water intrusion or anything. And so it's all looking good. We're gonna do some cable management while we've got this off. Also test to make sure all the systems are still in good working order. So this would be the top side of the underlayment. You can see this circle patch is where the water laid, and it's now dry. There's no and it's only been about an hour since it was drying. But thankfully there's no mold growth or anything on it. And this would be the underside. The black side is the underside, and everything's in good working order there. So we'll be able to reuse it. And we threw most of our insulation away. Some of it was still okay. That's what you can find here. This is what originally comes with it, and you can tell it's quite thin. I don't know, maybe it's R7, R9, I don't know, whatever it is, it's pretty thin. I can't find something that thin here in California. The thinnest I could find was R13, so that's what I went ahead and picked up a couple rolls. Each roll was about $17, and this is going to be 80 square feet. We have roughly 65 or so square feet underneath that we'll be replacing this with. And so we're not going to keep any of this old stuff. We're just going to toss it all and put brand new stuff in. We're going to put the underbelly back on, and then I also got a piece of aluminum. I think it's about a 1/4 inch thick, or actually let's take a look. This is flat bar aluminum. It's 1 inch wide, 1/4 inch thick by 8 feet long, 96 inches long. And so we'll be using that to reinforce the underbelly since we have it off. And this undertaking really shouldn't be too bad. All said and done, outside of drawing time, I mean, dropping it took about 10 to 15 minutes. Putting it back up will probably take every bit of about a half an hour, and then should be good to go. So if you guys are concerned about dropping the underbelly, don't be. It's actually quite simple with some basic hand tools. I think it was just a single size bit. It was a looks like a 5/8 inch bit is what took all the bolts out, and yeah, so there she is. We're gonna go ahead and film putting the underlayment back up, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, one, good to go. Just holding it in place. I said the duct tape is just holding it in place. It don't look pretty, but it's functional. Okay, so the tricky part is this first row is going to be a bear.
reattach the underbelly, we noticed that the holes for the screws were only a few millimeters away from the edge of the coroplast. So after we got to our first stop in Palm Springs, Steve decided to extend the metal frame to give the coroplast more surface area to attach to.
In this part of the video, we're gonna show you the basics of what we did. If you have any more questions or want more details, don't hesitate to ask in the comments. We can probably make a video later on that can go over everything in fine detail on exactly how I extended that. The insulation that came with the rig was relatively thin, and when it got wet, it compressed even more. What we did is we went back with some of the thinnest stuff we can find just at your big box Home Depot stores. I think it was like rated R13, but it was still quite a bit thicker. So when we went to replace it, it looks like the underbelly's impregnated now. It's real heavy. And the chloroplast underneath here, we weren't able to use the exact same bolt holes. So on this first trip out, it started to pull away from the frame rail underneath here. And you could start to see some of the insulation sagging. I kind of racked my brain on what to do to fix that. I was thinking, maybe just some Gorilla Tape or some Eternabond tape or something like that. Decided to try and make it a little bit more permanent. And so what I did is I found a local steel company here in Palm Springs, Palm Desert. They sold just some bar stock. This is 3/16 inch bar stock. I got a 10-foot section. It was $17. It's 2 inches wide. And what I'm gonna do, or what I'm hoping to do, is drill holes in the frame rail itself, drill holes in the bar stock, bolt them together. So essentially it's taking a 1-inch area that I can bolt our chloroplast to and turning it into about 2 inches. So with it sagging a little bit more, it's pulling the chloroplast away from the frame rail. So I should be able to bolt it up to this new frame rail, or the frame rail extension. And it should hopefully hold a little bit better. I'm gonna get some close-up shots for you so you can see kind of what it looks like now, and hopefully we're successful in a couple hours. Now you can see what we added. See this extra, all this work just to add this little strip. And this will be buttoned up. Oh, right there. Up, just buttoned up. All done. And no more insulation hanging down.
So after that fix, we thought everything was fine with the underbelly and we wouldn't have any more issues. But that brings us back to the side of the road in Utah, where obviously it didn't hold up.
Within just a couple minutes of trying to repair the underbelly with the Gorilla Tape, we noticed that didn't quite work. And everything was shooting out the back again. At that point, we quickly realized Utah roads weren't our favorite. Took us probably another 5 or 10 miles to find a spot to pull off. This time, I figured the best idea would probably be to double or triple the amount of Gorilla Tape I used. That didn't work. But within 30 seconds, it was coming off again. Now that it's been a good year since this happened, I've seen several other people that have had emergency stops on the side of the road. Best approach, Gorilla Tape won't hold it. Best approach is to have 2 or 3
ratchet straps.
Yeah, ratchet straps, utility straps. And that should at least get you to your next stop, or at least off the side of the road to a gas station or truck stop. That'll allow you to fix the problem a little bit better.
Gorilla Tape wasn't cutting it.
Gorilla Tape is not Gorilla strong. Because the Gorilla Tape wasn't working, and again, this is prior to me seeing other people having the problem and correcting it with ratchet straps. We didn't know what to do. We just ended up dragging it for the next 40, 50 miles with our hazards on, probably going 25, 30 miles an hour. I mean, that was the longest.
And there was still no shoulder, so even if we could have pulled over,
there was
we
no
wouldn't have been
shoulder.
able to.
I mean, it was honestly the longest 2 hours of my life. Once we got settled in Kanab, Utah, I decided to call around to several RV dealerships in the greater St. George, Utah area. I looked for any any dealership of size that might have a service center that might have underbelly material, coroplast, something large enough and thin enough outside of a tarp to hold up the underbelly. I wasn't able to find anything, and so ended up having to search online to find exactly what we were after. Coroplast, also known as corrugated poly, I believe, is used heavily in the sign making industry. It's also used in the RV industry. When we had no success with RV dealerships, we started calling sign shops. You can also get, I believe, 4x8 sheets at Home Depot or Lowe's, but I wasn't 100% certain that would work. And I wanted something a little bit more
Durable.
Durable and permanent, as opposed to just something temporary. We were only going to be in Kanab, Utah for a few days, and so time was of the essence. So that's when I found FactoryRVSurplus.com. We have no affiliation with this website. We just were able to find Coroplast on their website, ordered it, called them as soon as I ordered it, asked if they could, overnight it or 2 day ship it. I think this was a Friday when this happened, Thursday or Friday. They were able to get it out to me before the weekend because we were leaving the following Tuesday. It arrived Monday, and thankfully we were able to get it installed. We don't have any video footage on this Third Time's the Charm Coroplast.
We were pretty tired of it and didn't want to just film it.
No.
We were just over it.
And so because of that, I wasn't 100% sure what we were going to do would actually work and fix it. The new piece of chloroplast was several inches wider. It also didn't have the weight of the insulation weighing down on it anymore, and that's because we decided to
remove the insulation.
Remove
just
the
not
insulation.
add it back in.
Right. The insulation, I think there was only maybe 2, 3, 4 water lines running through there that were easily accessible. So what we ended up doing is just wrapping the actual pipes, the PEX in insulation and
Pool noodles.
And we already had tank heaters, and so we just completely removed the insulation, bolted it back up, and without that extra weight of the insulation, it bolted up fine, nice and flat, and we didn't need to add any additional hardware or steel strips underneath it to try and hold the underbelly up.
And we didn't need insulation there because that's just the basement. It's not like a living space. So it wasn't affecting like our air temperature in here.
No, and we've stayed several places after that got down below freezing. And
even to like 9 degrees or something.
Yeah, and we kept the furnace, I think, set at 45-50. We tend to use space heaters. I'd rather use somebody else's electricity as opposed to our propane. And we didn't have any sort of freezing issues. We just kept our tank heaters turned on. That insulation around the pipes didn't freeze anything going to the rear bathroom.
It's all good.
Yeah, and we were good to go. One of the last things I did is gorilla taping the very front of the coroplast where it meets the front of the frame. And that's just so wind doesn't catch the front of that coroplast and rip out the back and act like a wind tunnel again. After 12 to 13 months on the road with this third fix, we've had absolutely no issues whatsoever. I did forget to say, when we ordered the coroplast, we ordered
double the amount
we needed. I think shipping was nominal. I think it was an extra maybe $30 because we were already overnighting it. And I think even in materials, it went from, I don't know, $180 worth of material to $210 worth of material. And so I wanted to order extra just in case this happened again and we're stuck on the side of the road. We can stick another piece of coroplast on there. So 12 months later, I still have 12 feet of coroplast sitting in our basement.
We still carry it around with us.
Just for that time that it's going to blow out again, and it's never even come close. It's as sturdy today as it was, 12 months ago.
Yep.
Y'all, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye.